How we doing, everybody? This is Let's Be Real Brad, and today we're going to be talking about the newest comedy slasher film that's hitting theaters this weekend, starting on November the 13th, Friday the 13th, called Freaky. Before we start hitting the review, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. It means the world to me. You guys are liking the video. Subscribe to the channel. You guys are the best. So Freaky is a new comedy slasher film directed by Christopher Landon, as he directed two previous comedy slasher films under Blumhouse called Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day 2U, which I have reviewed on the channel, so those reviews will be linked down below. Christopher Landon in his past couple films has taken this element, this idea of something that we've already seen in a film before, like Groundhog Day, and use it in the Happy Death Day films. In this film, he uses the Freaky Friday concept and uses a horror twist on it. Let's start off with the positives here, as I feel as though that the writing and the comedy are fantastic in this movie. Like the previous Happy Death Day films, the comedy is very self-aware. It's tongue-in-cheek and it knows exactly what kind of movie it is. I think what works better than those Happy Death Day films is that you're not limited to that PG-13 rating. You have that strong, hard R that you can really make some hilarious jokes with some of the action sequences or just some implied notions that are going to be in this film rather than the Happy Death Day films. So it feels like there's a lot more that is able to be done, and it makes for a more enjoyable experience. Horror elements are very good in this movie. I found the kills to be extremely creative and so bloody and gory, all mixed into one. Extremely creative kills that are hilarious. They're super goofy. They're so bloody and intense all in one that it makes the movie so much more enjoyable, and it feels like it's catering to a more mature crowd. Performances in this movie are excellent. I feel as though that Kathryn Newton and Vince Vaughn carry this movie as the two leading stars. Vince Vaughn is the biggest standout because he is just so funny in this role. He is basically playing the girl as in because their bodies switch, and so he has some of the funny scenes in the whole film and he nails it. They let him go all out in this movie, and the writing works so perfectly with his performance because there's some things I didn't expect them to go for, and I don't want to spoil some of those moments, but they go for it, and I was a little shocked that they did, and the performance is great and every single time that he's on screen. And Kathryn Newton, I'm not too familiar with her work, but I thought she was really great in the limited role that she had because her body does switch, and so that the butcher character is playing her, so she doesn't really talk a whole lot in this movie, but I found her performance to be, when she's bad character, to be menacing, to be evil, and to have like a really great performance of being a sinister killer. I thought worked well in this movie. The movie is also extremely entertaining. As I always said about the first two Happy Death Day films, is that they have solid pacing and they're overall enjoyable films. This film I find the most entertaining out of those three, as this movie just flies along so fast. I was never bored in this movie. There's always something that's happening on screen for the audience with just a little bit of a detail or some great writing and some awesome, hilarious, self-aware jokes. I do enjoy the directing and cinematography of this film. Christopher Landon has proven to show that he knows how to direct a movie competently and accurately. There's some awesome and great shots in this movie. There are really awesome creative transitions in this movie that had added a little bit of a sci-fi element that, like the first two Happy Death Day films had. And it just shows that he has a little bit of enough detail, a little bit of a spark in him to add to these comedy horror films that he's making, and I enjoy that aspect. Again, like the other Happy Death Day films, I keep referencing, this movie does look great. It is definitely a well-shot, well-lit film. I always kept my eyes glued to the screen. This movie is going to have some negatives here, and there is a subplot with the mother in this film that I don't want to get into because it'll be spoiler territory, but it doesn't feel like it's ever developed whatsoever. Like, sure, they do go to it in the film, but it doesn't feel like it's actually resolved, and it doesn't feel like they actually handled that situation. It kind of feels like they threw it in there as a plot device to get things moving and to few reasons to why this didn't happen because of this reason. And I just feel as though that if they took a certain element out of the subplot, I think it would have made the movie a whole lot better. Last 5 minutes of this movie are very disappointing. It does feel tacked on, as you do feel like the movie's over, and then they just put a whole extra segment in there that felt unnecessary. And sure, that like if you took it for what it was, I think it's cool. I think you could have still did the last 5 minutes, but I feel like there was something that was cut out. I feel like they wanted to trim the runtime but still have those last 5 minutes. But that extra minutes they cut out were vital and important to the film to make sense, to have a nice flowing transition, that it feels out of nowhere. There are some dumb high school teenager moments in this movie that just don't make any sense at all. Some of it is very comedic and hilarious, and some of it just feel forced and very uninteresting as well, and I just wasn't buying it. Overall, I think this is Christopher Landon's strongest film so far, especially with the last couple of comedy slasher films under Blumhouse. This movie is extremely funny with great performances, and the horror works in a complementary way to the comedy, as I felt there's a lot of good tension-filled moments with some creative kills. I'm gonna give this film a strong 7 out of 10. You know, guys, are you guys excited to see Freaky? Have you guys even heard about it? I want to know anything about Christopher Landon's past couple films. Anything down below. As always, I'll see you guys next video.